In this episode, I'm going to cover the last of Dr. W. Edwards Deming's 14 points for management with point 14. Point 14, take action to accomplish the transformation. So there's a lot here. I've boiled it down a little bit because otherwise this video could probably be about an hour long. Um, the first lesson take away from this is if you're going to make any type of transformation, you're going to need a critical mass of people. And I also believe that you need to develop your synthetic thinking skills. And um, appreciation for a system was the first of Dr. Deming's system of profound knowledge. And uh, you need to get the skills associated with developing that synthetic thinking. Uh, Along with that, gaining that critical mass, which Dr. Deming identified as the square root of the number of people that you have in your organization. So typically I've worked with organizations with 150 people on up. Now I've worked with a few organizations with less than that, but and a lot of organizations with thousands of people. But the square root of, let's say, 150 people, 150 person organization is 12 people. And that is doable because most, even large organizations, are split out into divisions and things of that sort. So you need to develop that critical mass. And I think my belief is by developing the system map that I do in the executive education program, it gives you a touchstone to bring other people in and talk about your system and gain knowledge about it. Lesson number 2, and this is a very difficult one, and I've had many hard lessons associated with this. You ain't Deming. That goes for me too. Dr. Deming did 4-day seminars, and they worked because Dr. Deming's reputation of transforming Japan from a very manufacturing weak, poor country into a manufacturing superpower in a matter of less than 5 years built his reputation. And even his age, he was very, I don't know, it was like the grumpy old man type of thing when you went to his 4-day seminars. And I went to multiple of them, and I've seen them multiple other times through videos. But this worked to his advantage to a certain degree. Now, one of the problems that I think that the Deming community has is that they haven't transformed enough companies. Something has become a barrier for them because they do approach things, I think, very dogmatically, like merit pay and annual performance appraisals. Now, they're starting to fall out of favor, but I think you start to hit things that are cultural. It's very difficult. And like I said, I don't start there unless the whole organization is really on board, especially as you get into larger organizations. Um, so my my I took Dr. Deming's 4-day seminar after he passed away in 1993 and started to develop my own seminars associated with his thinking. Some were 3 days, some were 2 days, some were 1 day, some were half days, and went out to various Fortune 500 companies and conducted them for executives, workers, all types of people, middle management, and did that for 20 to 25 years of doing it. And just playing the videos to me will leave you underwhelmed. Some of his anecdotes don't play like they did back in the day. And I'm not going to say that you aren't going to learn anything from them, but they can be very rough, even if they're being redone in modern style. So what I've tried to do, and because I think there's a huge gap there, and I really appreciate what Dr. Deming did and what he meant to me, is, changed the way I think about things. He changed my perspective about how management is done. And it's not taught universally in universities, as I've mentioned many times in other videos that I've done, even podcasts that I do. It's just not being taught. We're still teaching executives things from the early 1900s, or some derivative of those things from the early 1900s. The Deming philosophy is something completely different. So the executive program that I put together, as imperfect as it is, and I'll be the first to admit that it's not an end all of anything, and we'll forever need to improve. But it takes the information and my learnings and communications with not only Dr. Deming, but people that I've interviewed for the Deming Institute podcast, and the books that I've read, and going to the Library of Congress and pulling out the Deming files that his family put in there, and reading about how he interacted with people, how he approached things, in implementing his philosophy. And probably the most representative, if I were to send people to something, would be the interview I did for the Deming Institute podcast with Paula Marshall at Bama Companies. They make the apple pies for McDonald's and a number of other things. And how he approached Paula Marshall was eye-opening to me. Because he went right after one of the worst things I tell you not to go after, which is performance appraisals. And like I said in point 13, he could get away with that because of his reputation and so forth. But I would not start there. So I put together into these videos a way for people to come in to become an effective executive using not only Dr. Deming's thinking, but some of the other works that I've read that I believe are associated with, or Dr. Deming actually used. Now, this is something that it's more difficult for me to do as part of the Deming Institute, because they've stayed very straight with Dr. Deming. There's nothing wrong with that. That's just kind of what their mission is. But there are other things that are going on in neuroscience and other works, and there's other scientific things that are being learned that I felt needed to be in the videos away from the Deming Institute. So the best place to start that I'm going to leave you with is this free starter kit. And then there's also a course that I have available. I'm going to be adding, I'm in the process of filming other videos also, where you can go through and learn how to become an effective executive. But I'm going to tell you right now, Dr. Deming's philosophy is a huge part of that, and his thinking, because it has influence, and I'm forever grateful for the work that Dr. Deming did in changing management. But I think we need an approach that's different. I think that it has to be a bit more modern with the latest in science on neuroscience helps, and leveraging that in order to help you become an effective executive. And you can go to the95method.com/courses, and there will be the free starter kit. You'll have to give your email in order to sign up for it. And then if you want to go on, there's 5 videos in the starter kit. If you want to go on, it should give you a sense of what you'd be going through. Then you can invest in the additional training. I'll be adding to it, and as time goes by, the cost will continue to increase, but I'll probably separate out the pieces also. But I would strongly suggest that anyone going through the training start with developing their synthetic thinking skills. It's a great place to start. If you're going to become an effective executive, I really believe that you can't just be an analytical thinker, that you need to be a synthetic thinker. Now I'm going to leave you with the message that Dr. Deming gave me the last time I talked to him on the phone, which is, you better hurry. Management will change at some point, and we need to change it for the better. But if you're looking for a competitive advantage over people in your industry or growing the pie for your industry, then I don't think there is a better way to go about it than using Dr. Deming's philosophy as a good foundation, but starting with developing those synthetic thinking skills. Now, mine is more of a how-to. I had high hopes at one point that the Deming management method would actually be a method. And it really wasn't. It was a series of stories, which was good. And I remember being excited when I picked it up. I thought I got my how-to. And I'm going to be criticized for coming up with a how-to for the, well, and I'm not going to, it's mine. It's my belief. It's how to become an effective executive. And the criticism will be that the Deming philosophy should go on its own, and I think it can. I just think that you can expedite your knowledge much more quickly if you're given a few things to help you build a foundation as an executive, and then build off of that. So, in the words of Dr. Deming, you better hurry, because I know there are other countries that are more involved in looking at the Deming philosophy. And let's face it, a lot of manufacturing has left the United States, and my primary focus is the United States, but I do work with and have worked with many other companies and organizations in other countries. So get something out of this. Please sign up for this channel. I'll release things that maybe will help you become an effective executive, give you pointers, and you can hit the subscribe, and then the bell will notify you when new episodes are released. Thank you for listening to these 14 points of management and kind of my interpretation of it.